Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show today. My name is Vincent from Tokyo Tabletop, and welcome to this week's Tokyo Table Talk. Tokyo Table Talk is, of course, the weekly unscripted podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons & Dragons and tabletop gaming related. This week I've brought on a couple guests, some old friends of mine from all over the globe. We're going to talk about some specific tabletop role-playing game systems and which of them they would like to live in if they had to live in it as the person that they are right now. Of course, I will have some footnotes at the end of this one where you can take a look into some of the systems that are mentioned. And I hope that you guys will enjoy it. First, let's talk about what I would take. So, for all of you guys who aren't aware yet, of course, my name is Vincent. I'm Arcane Static on YouTube, and I play Atlas the Bard in Tokyo Tabletop's tabletop role-playing stream. I started my tabletop role-playing mission in life when I was back in, 6th grade, when a fantastic teacher of mine introduced me not only to tabletop role-playing, but also to the idea of, fantasy fiction as a genre. And I actually still have contact with her to this day because she's that much of an influence on my life. I started on 3rd edition, actually. I knew about 2nd edition beforehand, but I didn't actually really start playing until I got the starters box for 3rd edition. And it was just fantastic. Since then, I've played 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 3.5, 3.75, I've played through 4 a little bit, which was a disaster. I've played 5th edition. I've gone through Shadowrun. I've gone through Call of Cthulhu. I've played Don't Rest Your Head. I've played all kinds of White Wolf. I'm decently experienced, I'd like to think, in the realm of tabletop role-playing games. The topic today, the first of the 3 questions that we will ask, is which tabletop role-playing games universe would you prefer to live in if you yourself had to go do that right now? And for me, since I'm kind of an acrobat and kind of I'm like a maybe halfway decent fighter, I'd like to think, I know my way around a one-handed sword and that kind of thing, I should like to think that I would be okay in the Call of Cthulhu universe. Call of Cthulhu is a gaming system based off of the works of H.P. Lovecraft and his contemporaries, wherein normal people in the 1920s or so have to deal with learning about things that simply should not exist. How they go about, finding out where ghosts are, dealing with cults that have been kidnapping people and killing them in the basement of an abandoned manor on the outside of town, that sort of thing. But the people that play, the normal characters that the players at the table will play, are generally things like a librarian, or a detective, or a chemist. Generally normal people stuff that I feel like I would fit into that world pretty easily, because I could be a showman, I could have worked for the circus there, or I could be doing some kind of research, I could definitely work in a library at that point. I feel like with the skills that I have now as me, that going back to 1920s Boston would actually do me pretty okay. I've got plenty of livable skills that I could use in that time period to just be a normal person, and since I'm not going to be one of the hero characters, I probably will never have a run-in with a terrible cultist or a monster from the depths of the sea or something like that. I feel like I could make a decent life for myself in that universe. And yeah, it may not be the most interesting choice ever for me, because obviously since I'm not one of the heroes, I don't get to do all the cool stuff. But I'm sort of looking out for my own well-being at this point, because I, as Vincent, kind of don't want to be killed in the maw of a giant beast. The second question that we'll be asking is, okay, so now you're in that universe. Suppose you got to build, be an actual player character. And if that's the case, then I think I would go with the, slightly occultish librarian. Because in this game, in this world, the skill for library use is probably the most important thing that you will ever have in any context. Because something happens, and since it's the 1920s, there's no internet, you have to look it up, which means that you have to go to the library and do it. And if you have a low library use skill, you aren't going to find the stuff that you're looking for. But if I worked at the library, I would have a high library use skill, so I would have all of the knowledge about everything forever. And in addition, you can find that a lot of the people in this game that are like main player characters tend to start out with at least some Cthulhu Mythos score, which is the statistic on your character that tells how much you actually know about the unseen world and like what terrible things lurk in the darkness and that sort of thing. So I would like to be the kind of like occult bookstore / librarian kind of fellow who like runs the library but also has the occult bookstore on the side, which is where he actually makes his money. I think that would actually be a pretty good character for me, because like I'd probably have like a pistol under the desk that I never have fired before, but just having it makes me feel a little safer from the thugs that might be coming in to rob my bookstore. And people would not be suspicious of me if I disappeared into the annals of the basement of the library where they keep all of the forbidden books, because in this world that's where you keep all the forbidden books, is the basement of the library. The third question that we're going to be asking today is, now suppose that you didn't get tied to that system. If you could be a high-level character in any other system, which would it be? And this goes to my home system, Shadowrun. I've never had a more intriguing and like deep character development than when I was playing as 10 Rainy Day in Shadowrun. Yes, my dear ladies and gentlemen, if you have followed my Twitter, you know that that's my handle there. I really enjoy the idea of the cyberpunk aesthetic, the ability to like cybernetically modify your body and give yourself like superhuman abilities, things like the ability to record what you see into a hard drive that's in your head, muscle replacements that make you stronger, bone density augmentations that make it so that you're less likely to be damaged if you get punched or fall off of something. Just the idea that you can cybernetically augment your body alone would sell it for me. But if I could be a high-level character, then I would obviously be one of the hero characters. I'd be a Shadowrunner, which would mean that I'd be a breaking and entering specialist. That seems like it would be perfect fit for the skill set that I kind of already have right now. So that's Call of Cthulhu and Shadowrun are my two choices for those questions there. Let's hop into some interviews and we'll see what other people have got to say. First up is my good friend Marcus, who I met a long time ago in Japan. Would you be so kind as to give a quick introduction to yourself?
Hey, I'm Marcus. I spent a couple of years over in Japan, and that's where I met Vince. I'm in Australia at the moment, as you might be able to tell from the accent. I've been told I have one. I don't see it. But, yes, I'm always up to talk about RPG stuff.
Marcus, what do you do, like, as a normal person right now? I say normal. Normal may not be the right word for that.
Yeah, let's go.
What do you do as a person right now?
Yeah, let's go with that. I work as a teacher at a whole bunch of different schools in the Melbourne area, and in the off hours, pretty much just tinker and make stuff. I mean, I'm a bookbinder by vocation, if not by trade, and I'm just moving out into just weird engineering projects and stuff. I'm trying to make myself an electric koto at the moment.
Man, like, if I ever need some weird mad science stuff done, this is the guy that I'm going to go to it.
Yeah, that works.
Right. So, Marcus, tell me, what kind of RPGs have you played in before?
Well, I got started out in your standard D&D 2nd edition, which is showing my age.
Yeah.
And after that, I pretty much got into the White Wolf system in a big way, just because the mechanics are really simple and it's more oriented around storytelling rather than rolling dice. I've tried my hands at a few different ones. I mean, I did Shadowrun for a while, couldn't get my head around it because I needed a calculator on hand if I wanted to do anything. And most recently, I've discovered the Risa system, which is pretty fun.
Sounds like you've got some experience under your belt, which is super good.
A bit, yeah.
So then, let's go with our main topic of the day. Marcus, if you as a person had to live in any tabletop role-playing games universe, which one would it be and why?
I've thought about this time or two before because I'm a colossal nerd. Off the top of my head, I'd probably say, in terms of just bog standard me, I'd rather be in the Rice's setting, just because I'd probably have the longest life expectancy.
That's fair. Can you go through a little bit about what that system's about?
Okay, I haven't played it a great deal, but essentially it builds itself as a simple system that can be plugged into pretty much any kind of setting, where there's minimal dice rolling and maximal actually like characterizing and playing and stuff. Basically, instead of character classes or abilities or proficiencies or whatever, you have cliches. So,
I like
so if
it.
you say play the barbarian raider type, you'll have cliches like roaring, wearing no shirt in sub-zero temperature, axes, punching people, being punched,
Good.
and you get a number of dice in each of those ones. You roll them, and if you roll higher than the opposed roll, then you'll win, and the other person loses a dice from their dice pool. The fun part of it is that pretty much any kind of skill that you have can be used in combat and can be used against someone else. So the example in the rule book is a person who's a ninja who's got a special cliche in Cajun cooking somehow, going against a dragon. And so if you
and how does that turn out?
Well, if you're meshing two like non-really related skills, like in this case, they put some sleeping poison into a big old pot of gumbo.
Sure.
You get a penalty in your roll, but if you succeed, it does extra damage.
Okay, so it's high risk, high reward.
Yeah. So like dueling banjos is an actual viable duel in this system. Although apparently can be a little bit stressful for the poor GM because it basically rewards bloody-minded creativity on the part of the players.
Oh yeah, I mean, any system that does that kind of spontaneity is pretty hardcore with it. Okay, so then why would you pick that system for you to live in?
Well, just because the skills are universal, you don't have like specialized characters and stuff, and everyone else is just a commoner. I mean, pretty much any character can have these cliches or these archetypes. And they can all be used and developed and stuff. So there's not so much player characters and non-player characters and stuff. You've just got characters. So in this instance, like I said, I probably have the highest life expectancy out of any of the RPG systems I know, simply because the skills that I have would be usable in event of some sort of kerfuffle. Plus, I like the notion of being able to describe myself as a level 10 bookbinder and have it mean something.
So then let's take the next question. Mm-hmm. If you had to build yourself a character to play in that universe, how would you build it and why?
In the Rises universe, pretty much take the skills that I've got and work out how to potentially extend them or branch them out, sort of like skill tree kind of thing, although that's not a major feature in the Rises system. It's just you basically just get these cliches and go with them. So I mean, as a teacher, my skills would probably be sort of explaining stuff, being dull, shouting "oi," demanding that people brought enough for everyone, that sort of stuff. But
sure.
But pretty much, I imagine I would just set out and absolutely level grind pretty much all of the cliches that I want to build on, which is kind of like reality now that I think of it.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like the system that you have picked is very close to real life, just with a little bit more flair to it.
Well, like I said, survival I mean, like, you drop me straight into, just bog standard me into like Shadowrun, Lord of the Rings, whatever and stuff. I probably have the life expectancy of a snowball in a blast furnace.
So, okay, can you give some examples of some of the cliches that you think you might have as, like, you part and parcel, and then some of the cliches that you would build into?
Okay, Well, I mean, I flatter myself to think of myself as a craftsman, so that'd be
sure.
So some of the cliches there would be being precise, swearing at ineffective tools, wanting more tools.
Good.
Buying tools. There is a bit of a theme developing here now. I think of it, and I mean, like, I've studied karate and stuff, so that'd be one. Shouting. Shouting loudly, breaking boards.
Those were good days. Marcus and I used to actually train at the same dojo when we were back in Japan together.
Yeah, we did. Sparring against Vince is always fun because he'd start off in karate, but he'd very slowly segue into like drunken boxing or something.
It's not that bad. Come on.
No, I enjoyed it. I just liked watching your system gradually sway. Okay, you start off in Zenkutsu Dachi, and then suddenly the torso would start swaying, and the hands would be curved.
Anyway, like as we were saying, so you've got some karate under your belt. That would be another one of the cliches.
Yeah, a bit of karate, a bit of boxing, although that one is more along the lines of punching the thing again.
I mean, that sounds kind of like what boxing is. Let's be honest.
This is true. But yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, branching out in terms of the cliches, I've already started demonstrating the craftsman cliche, being snooty about other craftsmen. Oh, geez, some of the books I've seen around here. I say.
One last question to wrap this bit of the interview up.
Mm-hmm.
What if you could be like a high-level character in any other system?
Okay, pretty hard to choose between Mage of the Ascension, the original World of Darkness. Setting as
Old World of Darkness.
Old World of Darkness as an Aetherite, or just a straightforward mad scientist from Genius the Transgression, which is a fan-made expansion for modern World of Darkness. Either of those ones, I really like the notion of the archetype of the mad scientist.
As we can tell.
Yeah, and Aetherites in Old World of Darkness are essentially like science that had crossed the Clark limit. It's sort of like science that was advanced enough that it could function as magic, and in fact, in that system, they were actually just science-based reality warpers. In the sort of the kooky Victorian sort of, the benevolent, eccentric mad scientist type. Whereas the ones in Genius are the Frankenstein-style mad scientist types. Like the Frankenstein and Universal Pictures and stuff, where the thing that they make will inevitably go rogue and get destroyed by the common villagers and stuff, but it's a hell of a time along the way.
Oh, certainly. And would you have it any other way?
Hell no.
I mean, being a normal old mad scientist. Bah.
Well, I'm just pointing that out because the number of times I have had people just on first meeting describe me as being a mad scientist or a mad engineer, I'm saying that this one would probably fit me quite well.
Yeah, I mean, like, when I was living in the same area as this gentleman, like, I would go over to his place, and he'd be like, hang on, don't open the closet. And I'd be like, why is that? He's like, no, because I've got some science in there. And that is literally, like, the words that would be used. I have some science in the closet. Okay, I will not open the closet for fear of the science within.
I'd like to argue with that one, but no, he's pretty much got it, yeah.
Well, it was really good having you on the show, man. Thanks for taking the time out to come and talk to us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Anytime.
Definitely. Do you have any social media that you'd like to plug? Maybe some stuff where we can come see some of the things that you make?
Yeah, I've got a Facebook page for my bookbinding business, which is Aroborus Craft, and I'm definitely going to have to spell that because I like making things hard for myself.
I'll put a link in the description for you.
Okay, yeah, that works. I've got a YouTube channel as well where I've got a couple of videos up. One was extracting iron sand from beach sand with a magnet, and the most recent one was doing homebrew ginger beer.
Well, you have a place on our podcast at any time. I will definitely be coming back to you to have you come hang out with us again. Thanks a lot for your help, dude.
Hell yeah, mate. Looking forward to it, and have a good one.
Marcus is an interesting fellow no matter how I look at it, and I am really glad that I had the opportunity to talk with him today. He's been instrumental in the development of some of the more weird science stuff that he and I have done together, and he's a pretty chill dude. Our next guest is a gentleman that I've known for about a decade. He is a good friend, and I used to roll dice with him a long time ago. All right, so we're here with our next guest. Would you be so kind as to give a quick introduction to yourself, my dear friend?
Hi, I'm Scott, and I'm a working professional now, which I don't know what to say about that. I'm a programmer. I'm working in VR and doing some cool low-level programming stuff. And I was a mobile game designer for like 5 or 6 years before that.
He's a pretty cool dude. Scott, you and I met when we were in Japan actually 10 years ago, didn't we? Holy crap.
Heck yeah, we did, right?
Jesus, you and I have known each other for a decade?
I know. It feels like less time than that.
I mean, not like yesterday or anything, but definitely less time than a decade.
Yeah, no, I very clearly remember various events that happened while we were here in Japan together.
Yeah, it was a pretty good time. He and I were on the same study abroad thing. Thing is a good word for that.
Thing, yeah.
It was a good time. And during that time, he and I played on a Shadowrun campaign together, which was just the best.
That was my introduction to Shadowrun, in fact.
It's quite good, right? So Scott, go ahead and give us a little background on what other kind of tabletop games you have played.
So tabletop role-playing games, I started out playing Dungeons and Dragons Second Edition,
Old
or
school.
sorry, D&D Advance, Second Edition, Advanced, something like that.
Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the one.
That's the one. So I started out playing that when I was, geez, like 8 or something, 10 maybe.
Good, good.
Anyway, my uncle, who was totally an adult by then, um, was living with his parents when we came to visit them,
Good, good.
and
And he took
he
that opportunity.
he either appropriately or inappropriately decided that he was going to run a campaign with his like 11 and 10 and 7 year old nephews.
Good. That sounds brilliant.
We ran a campaign in which my little brother, he decided that he was going to smart off to a vampire,
That sounds like a good
and
time.
and the vampire decided that he was going to knock him out, and he used him as, and he basically just slung my little brother over his shoulder and used him to feed off of every now and then.
Oh my god.
And for years afterward, his nickname was Snack Boy amongst my uncle and me and my brother.
Wonderful.
Like, so I still remember that. Yeah, so we did that. Then I moved on to D&D Third Edition,
Good, yes.
running my own campaigns in middle school, I guess. With a couple of friends, I ran some campaigns then, and I didn't do a whole lot of role playing because I didn't know a whole lot of people who were like open to it.
I feel that.
So the next real role playing I did actually was 10 years ago with you guys in Japan when you introduced me to Shadowrun, which was amazing.
Such a good time.
Um,
Such a good time.
and I've run a couple of small campaigns with some friends since then, always keeping my character Jad around to like start off things or whatever. So
He was a good dude.
I liked him. He's mysterious. He's on. I mean, quite frankly, he's a lot like me. Which, if you, it's weird how we sort of always play versions of ourselves.
Don't I know it? No matter what kind of character you're playing, you've always got at least like 45-50% of it you.
Right. And it's very interesting, and like I actually worry about that now when I play games with friends because I'm like, what
Oh,
am I gonna learn about them?
right? Or like even worse, like, am I gonna be the weird Mary Sue character that everyone realizes is just me with a long black jacket on?
Right. Yeah. So I did a little Shadowrun. I poked around. I played BESM
Oh
a couple
god.
times.
Oh, Besem, good times.
Yeah, I love that one. It's so uh
It's absurd.
yes, it's like it's super dorky and lame, but like in kind of a cool way. I did that. I've played some D&D 4th edition. I
My
haven't had a
apologies.
chance. It's like I didn't really try it out, give it a fair go until kind of I was starting to work as a game designer. And so
Sure.
from that perspective, I understood kind of what they were going for. They were going for something that was very approachable, something that was friendly, and it felt maybe familiar to people who had played like World of Warcraft,
Cough. It was
EverQuest.
definitely just World of Warcraft, the tabletop game. Cough. So you've got quite a few systems under your belt that you've played through.
Mhm.
Let's go in for the first question of the interview. Let's say that you, as Scott right now, had to suddenly be transported into the universe of a tabletop role playing game. Which one would
Mhm.
you choose and why?
So I'm glad I got the questions from you ahead of time so I could think about this one. Because like it originally I was like, oh well, Shadowrun, obviously, but then I'm like, wait, I have to live in this world, and I probably don't want that to be Shadowrun.
Right.
So I'm actually gonna say the Fate system.
Oh, good choice. Why Fate System?
So the Fate system, what I love a couple of things about it. One is that it's kind of like our world right now for the
Sure.
most part. It exists in a world that's sort of compatible with I don't know if there's like a term for the real world, but
Yeah,
Earth
the
One or whatever.
mundane world we'll go with, I guess.
Yeah. And but what it has is it allows for pretty much any kind of action star, adventure hero, superhero trope that you've seen in any movies or read in any books. It allows for that to exist
Sure.
inside this world.
Okay.
Um And so I like that idea. And the thing that I really like about it is the I don't remember what they're called. They're like it's like fate points or something. Like you basically build up these karma things as you play the game, and you can spend them at will to be like, I'm gonna do something freaking awesome right now. Very much like the Edge and Shadowrun. So like you can go through and you can be like, you know what? Nope, I'm gonna be a badass right now. And like you can't do that too much, but the more bad stuff happens to you, the more you build up this ability to then take control of the world and around you and affect events and stuff like that. So between the ability to have kind of like superhuman powers or skills or traits or attributes, like Indiana Jones has, fedora and whip, and he's just freaking super good at that. And dramatic, interesting stuff happens with his hat and whip, and that's cool, right?
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Like if you're the dude, like even if I'm just me, but then like I'm the guy who like just does like crazy stuff with his hat, like his hat does crazy things, and like I'm just like, no, it's my hat, and everyone's like, he's the dude with the hat.
Yeah.
Like that makes your life more interesting, I think. But at the same time, you're not necessarily always fighting like demons or getting driven insane, and you don't have to watch your back about werewolves or vampires or something coming after you in the night. So
Yeah,
it's kind of safe, but it's also like it's like a super epic version of the world we live in right now.
makes sense. Yeah, I can see how that would be a livable world for a lot of people there. So let's take that world then and say, all right, now you get to keep the memories that you've got right now, but you also get to like embody the like skill set and abilities of a character that you can build in that system. Who would you build to be next in that system?
Gosh, I'm not sure what I would want to do something technical because of my like I'm a programmer by trade but also by hobby.
Right.
And so like I'd be tempted to do something really super technical like that where I can hack things really really quickly or pick up new technologies or just understand things and be like, oh, I can fix this, like that hacker who just hops in and they're like, oh, hang on a second, and then like they're just typing 5,000 words a minute and they write a program that injects a virus or something on the computer itself. I think the thing that I'd like to do, and I don't know if this would be viable in Fate, is
Okay.
I'd like to be immortal.
That's a bold choice.
I would want to live forever. With a few exceptions, like if I get ejected into space, I want to be able to die from asphyxiation there.
Okay.
Because I don't want to live forever floating around in space for millennia
Yeah, that would kind
until
of
I
suck.
tumble into a sun or something like that. Like that would be awful. And like maybe like a way to die, or like I can die by choice or something like that would
Sure.
be the caveat to that one. But living forever would be, I think, like I'd want to be that character. So you've got kind of like a dark past. Maybe you don't remember very well, like the what's her face who played Arya Stark on Game of Thrones, but when she was in the character she did in Doctor Who, kind of maybe even a character like her, like she's really good at stuff, but
Right.
maybe she doesn't remember everything about her past because the human mind wasn't designed to remember hundreds and hundreds of years of life,
That's fair. I can get
right?
behind that.
So something like that would be cool. And the other thing is that if you lived forever, then you would understand. You would just know how things are in like put together, and like you understand the human condition and what people are about, and you can kind of just go through. You would almost be like a god in the world,
Hmm.
but you still wouldn't have time to do everything because people would invariably solve problems that you hadn't had time to get around to yet.
Right.
So there would always be something new to learn, something new to study and advance, and so you could like help out in some area, like push technology in one way, but then other people are pushing it in another way, and then you can disappear and like come back up as this brilliant scientist in some other field. And there's so like I don't feel like it would get boring living forever.
I mean,
It
assuming
would.
that the human race isn't accidentally exterminated or some stuff like that, I could kind of get behind that.
Right, right. Well, and if they were, it would probably be as a result of something that I did.
Okay. Last question of the interview, real quick then. Suppose that you could just be a high-level character in any other tabletop system. It doesn't have to be the Fate system. What would you choose to be?
I would probably pick like a max level character from Dungeons and Dragons, because those dudes are basically demigods. I would be that level 20 wizard, and I would just I would I would exist. I would travel back and forth between the astral plane. I'd live for hundreds of years, and I would basically have my tower that I'd want to have. I would have like my home that I lived
Right.
in like some alternate dimension. It would be very pleasant and cozy and warm, and there'd be like paintings that I made and
Sure.
stories of people who I'd helped and loved ones and stuff like that. But I would absolutely house that in like some dark closet wardrobe, um inside like a dark spooky tower, so that anybody who comes seeking my wisdom would
Has to
be
go.
sufficiently impressed at the difficulty of the task.
Oh, wonderful. That's the best answer. That's the best answer. Oh man. Scott, you are a scholar and a gentleman, and I thank you very
and you
much
as well.
for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. You've got a spot on our show anytime.
You know what? Whenever you want me on here, I'm happy to talk about whatever. Well, I mean, most whatever.
Most things. We'll stay in the realm of tabletop games, I think.
Yeah. Let's keep it there.
Cool deal. Well, Scott, thanks again for coming along, and we will see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Next up, let's go for another old friend of mine. This gentleman's name is Josh. He and I used to go to the same martial arts studio a long time ago. So we're here with our next guest, a very old friend of mine who I haven't seen in quite a long time, but has taken some time out of his schedule to come and talk with us as well. Josh, would you be so kind as to give yourself a little introduction?
Yeah, sure. Hey, what's up? My name's Josh. I've known Vinny for a while. Yeah, I'm just living in Taiwan across the ocean from him. It's pretty nice. It's pretty sweet over here. But yeah, we got started talking about tabletop games, so that's what we're going to talk about.
Sounds like a good time. Josh, what do you do, like, as a person in real life?
I like to go outside a lot. Like recently, I've been riding bikes. I've been hiking, just kind of going out and enjoying like now the summer's finally kind of ending over here. We're getting some cool weather, so it's just kind of nice walking out in the sun. Besides that, I produce music. Like I like to make tunes at home. I like to play piano a lot. Been learning that a lot recently. Yeah, I don't know. I DJ a lot.
He's a pretty fantastic musician. You'll actually hear some of his work on my channel. He made my channel music, which is fantastic.
Yo, go like my SoundCloud and my Fire mixtape, yo.
Oh, Jesus. Christ, I don't know what to cut now.
Just leave it in.
Okay, we're doing it live.
Just do it live. Just, you can,
Oh, God.
you can bleep out every other word if you want to.
It'll be great, right? Okay. So Josh, tell me, what kind of tabletop role-playing games have you played in your life?
I've played a few. Like, I played Dungeons and Dragons. I think that might have been the first like actual tabletop game that I played.
The gateway drug to tabletop for a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I like being a half orc a lot. I just kind of like grabbing an axe and smashing things up with my friends. Like we'd stay up late in high school doing that. We kind of like. Or like university too. Sometimes I'd get together with friends from work and we'd play some D&D. Also, I really like World of Darkness. When I was in middle school, my friend showed me that PC game, the Vampire the Masquerade.
Vampire the Masquerade, yes.
Yeah, dude, did you ever play that game?
Dude, it's such a good game, right?
It's sick. It is like the glitchiest game I've ever played in my life, but the writing and the story is just amazing. I love that game so much.
You can forgive a lot about a bad game if the story is good.
Yeah. So I played that a lot, and I liked it because like every time you played it, you could be one of the different classes of vampires, and like it affected the way your character talked, and like it affected the way that like all the different characters interacted with you, and I thought that was just like the coolest thing. Like I kept like replaying it as different characters and stuff. So that's
Yeah, you know that a game has got good replay value if you go back to it more than once.
Oh hell yeah. That's definitely my favorite one. Like I played the tabletop too a few times, but just like Vampire the Masquerade is my favorite.
Oh yeah. Well, Old World of Darkness has a certain charm to it. Like, I'm not a World of Darkness fan, really, but if I am gonna play, it's gotta be Old World of Darkness, and Vampire the Masquerade's one of the most classic for that.
I liked it for the gothicness of it. I played Call of Cthulhu. Actually, we played it one time, like very briefly for 5 minutes on the forums. Remember?
I remember it. That was a good time.
Yeah, yeah, that was pretty fun. I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I haven't. Oh, one time I tried that what's that superhero one? It might have been Aberrant. I played it with that girl Jessie. Do you know her? She lives in Muriel.
Yeah, I remember Jessie. She was cool.
It was me and Austin and a couple other guys, and we met up with her, and she was the DM for that game. I think it was Aberrant. I forget, but it was pretty cool too.
If it was with Jessie, it was Aberrant.
Okay. All right.
Because I played with her as well.
All right. Yeah. Well, makes sense. Yeah, that one was pretty fun.
All right. So you've got some decent experience behind you. Let's go into the interview question. First question then is: suppose that you, as Josh, right now, had to suddenly be transported and live in a tabletop role-playing universe. Which one would you prefer to live in, and why?
I think it's probably super obvious, but if I could live in an RPG world, I would just choose the old World of Darkness.
Attaboy.
Yeah, I'm biased. It was like it was so exciting in middle school playing through this like really dark and gritty and gothic world, and being this super powerful vampire and like keeping it hidden below the surface, like keeping your identity secret from all the normal people out there. It was just kind of fun.
You're actually, of the three people that I've interviewed today, all of them have given the, like, yeah, we kind of want to live in a world that's similar to the one that we're in right now, but just better.
Yeah. Well, not me apparently. I don't think the World of Darkness is really better than the world we really live in.
Better, maybe not so much. More interesting, I can certainly say.
Can I kind of put an asterisk next to my answer? Because, like, I would choose this as long as I could be a vampire. I would really not want to be a normal person in this world.
Okay, so then the next question actually covers that. If you could then, in that world that you chose, like, build a character and then keep your memories right now, but be that character as well, how would you build that character?
Well, obviously I'd be a vampire.
Of course.
Okay, like, how would I build it? I thought a little bit about that, and I would probably choose a clan of vampire, and the two that were always my favorite to play were Tremere and Malkavian.
Of course, I knew you were going to say Malkavian. The
Hell,
second you said
yes.
Tremere, I was like, it's Tremere and Malkavian, isn't it?
Well, it's I don't know, like there's that weird, wacky little element of when your character is just like schizophrenic and like detached and off the walls. I always thought that was really fun. That was really quirky,
Oh yeah, playing a nutso character is fun.
Yeah. It's like there are consequences to your actions, but you just don't really care. I'd be like some young vampire, like some dude who just got turned like in the last 5 to 10 years, and like he's still filled with like piss and vinegar, and he still like wants to tear stuff down. Like that would be really exciting, like I don't want to be some crusty old vampire who's been hanging around for 500 years. It's like I could be wise and I could be powerful beyond all reason, but like I'd honestly rather just be cool guy vampire on a motorcycle.
Like, if you want to play an edgelord character, you have to play World of Darkness.
Like, World of Darkness is really good. If you're, like, in high school and you just, like, watched Underworld for the first time, that kind of edgy, like, that vibe really, really works in World of Darkness. Whereas, like, if you were to do something like if I was like an edgy half-orc in Dungeons and Dragons, it would just be a little bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally possible you could do it, but it would be weird as hell.
He's got like one of those emo haircuts that goes like over one of his eyes.
The Skrillex cut, like bald on one side, flopped over, and he's a half orc, but he does it ironically.
He's got like his belt with like the skulls of his enemies, and then on the other side it's like band logos. It's like dead Kennedys right next to like a skull. It's like Good Charlotte right next to a jawbone.
I really, if anyone who's listening listening to this episode is a talented artist, please draw this character for us.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So
That's how I'd have my vampire, but not quite that edgy. I like the idea that he's like aggressive, but it doesn't have to be like edgy and shit.
good. Yes. Oh man. So let's say that you weren't restricted to World of Darkness, and you could just be like a high-level character in any system that you know about. What system would you choose, and what kind of like really high-level person would you want to be?
Yeah, okay. Without just limiting myself to World of Darkness, I wondered kind of what it would be like when I played Aberranth if I was like a really high-level superhero and like with a really good GM, like who had a really creative idea for a plot, like how that kind of character would be to play. Like if I was super powerful, but like I encountered this scenario or this problem, and like I had to figure out a creative way to use my powers to get out of it, like that kind of thing.
So like you were a super powerful character, like a superhero, but then you actually found something that gave you a challenge as opposed to being like random Street Thug 6 of the day.
Yeah, like actually being Superman or the Flash or like the Human Torch or like some character who's analogous to that. I always thought that'd be really interesting.
And pretty much, let's be honest, everyone dreams about being a superhero at least once in their life.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Well, Josh, thank you very much for taking some time out to come up on the show. I super appreciate you being able to come on and chat with me. It was really cool.
Yeah, dude, thanks for having me.
Most definitely. Do you have any like social media or stuff that you want to plug?
I mean, maybe my SoundCloud or something. If you like listening to music, I'm Crystal on Canvas, but besides that, no.
All right, well, I'll put a link in the description for it then. Thanks a lot, dude. You've got a place on our show anytime.
Thanks, dude. Keep on rocking.
Ah, man, I miss that guy. It's been a long time since we hung out. Anyway, so that was our 3 interviews for the day. Of course, the systems that we talked about. This is footnotes time. We talked about, of course, Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition, which was Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. We've talked about 3.5 and 5 and 4, even a little bit there. In the World of Darkness family, we had Mage the Ascension, we had Vampire the Masquerade, and we had Genius the Reckoning. That's the fan-made one there. We also talked about Shadowrun, Call of Cthulhu. We talked about Aberrant, which is the superhero role-playing game there. We talked about quite a few systems there. You can definitely go in and take a look at them. If you're looking for some of the social media for the people that were on the episode today, you can look in the description for this episode. There will be links to all of the social media that is applicable to that. And I think that is everything that we got to talk about today. So thank you guys again very much for coming and listening this time around. If you want to get in touch with us, you can hit me specifically up on Twitter at 10rainyday, or you can hit the show up at Tokyo Tabletop. We are all over the place. Of course, there's the YouTube channels for both of us. And if you want a quick way to get a hold of anyone here, you can go onto the Arcane Static Discord channel, which is also in the description. You can get a hold of me there pretty quickly. Thank you guys very much for coming and listening, and we'll see you next time.